Hi. For the history video this week, I want to pick up where we left off last week in the description of the double-cross system, that is the British espionage network that captured every single German agent in Britain and let the Germans feel they continued to operate and turned them and made them work for the British, sometimes killing them and operating the radios in their name and feeding the Germans whatever the Allies wanted them to believe. An incredible system. It's a book by Ben McIntyre called How the D-Day Spies Saved Normandy. Where we left off last weekend, I was talking about how the system developed, how they captured spies and created a spy network, sometimes of completely fictitious spies, 20 or 30 of them that didn't really exist, but were radio transmitters being operated by British agents. When the decision came to launch D-Day, one thing was clearly apparent. The most you could put ashore on D-Day would be 5 divisions, or 6 at most, of British, Canadian, and American infantry, about 160,000 men. And the Germans had 60 divisions in France. And you couldn't really land a significant number of tanks or artillery, and the Germans, of course, had all of that. So if the Germans knew where you were coming, you were dead. If they understood where the invasion was taking place, they would move the panzers in, they would move 10 or 20 divisions, and they'd sweep the Allies into the sea. Couldn't possibly land enough equipment and manpower to make a difference. As it was, D-Day was a bloody affair. 2,500 Allied troops died, and over the Normandy campaign, 20,000 did. 20,000 Americans did. But it was basically attacking bunkers manned by soldiers who were probably second-rate, either older soldiers or returnees from the Russian front or young kids drafted or, in many cases, foreigners conscripted to fight for the Germans. But the strength lay in the bunkers, the walls, the fortresses that our guys had to attack. But had they been tanks, it would have been a different story. So what the British did was to deceive the Germans as to where the invasion was taking place. And it was a multi-pronged deception. The major deception was to say it's going to be in Pas-de-Calais, which is the shortest distance across the English Channel from Dover, and would be the most direct route. And the Germans had 15 divisions in the Pas-de-Calais area, reinforced by heavy panzers, waiting for that invasion. The second phony invasion was we said we'd send troops into Norway, and the Germans had 300,000 troops in Norway waiting for the Allied invasion. We also said that we'd land in the Bay of Biscay, in the Bordeaux region of southwestern France, and the Germans had many divisions tied up there, waiting for an attack. And we also said that we'd move into Italy, and the Germans were there as well. So the Germans were spread out and thinned out. But the main thing, and by the way, to do that, the British and Americans created entirely fictitious armies, one commanded by General Patton, who had to sit out D-Day because he was in the doghouse. But he was in charge of a fictitious army, cardboard and wooden tanks and guns, so that from the air it would look like an army. And the double-cross system, the British agents, would run around in jeeps all over the area in southeastern England where they were supposed to be massing. The real British invasion force and U.S. force was in southwestern Britain. But they made up this army in southeastern and drove around sending radio traffic typical of what an army would have. So that when D-Day happened and we invaded Normandy, Hitler believed that that was a feint. He believed that that was not the major attack because he'd been getting intelligence all along from the phony agents telling him that there would be a feint in Norway and then the main attack would come in Pas-de-Calais. So he ordered von Rundstedt, the German commander, to keep the panzers and the tanks and the 15 divisions pinned down in Pas-de-Calais, not to release them to Normandy. And it wasn't until a month went by that Hitler finally abandoned the delusion and realized that he'd been tricked. incredible thing. So get a hold of the book, The Double Cross System. By the way, the committee that ran this operation for the British was called the 20th Committee, Roman numerals XX, double cross. And while you're in the bookstore, pick up a copy of Armageddon, How Trump Can Beat Hillary, Eileen's and my new book. It's now number 2 on Amazon. We're right behind Harry Potter, the second most widely bought book in the United States. Thanks very much.